What's up, everybody? It's Daniel. I'm back with another just quick movie review. I didn't feel like this one really needs like a crazy in-depth analysis or anything like that. Not that I do that anyway. Um, Tonight I went on a little solo date by myself. Adriana was at work, so I was just kind of bored. Wanted to see this movie. It's called Silent Night. This is the one I have pulled up right now. It's John Woo's newest action thriller, pretty much. I'm a pretty big John Woo fan. I like action movies. I grew up watching his movies most of the time. They're kind of, I wouldn't say they're cheesy, but the action is sometimes like just absolutely insane in most of his movies. I'm referring back to like Mission Impossible 2, Hard Boiled, Broken Arrow. These movies are all kind of just movies that are like exaggerated, but they're good enough to where it's like, oh, it was a cool movie, you know. This one I wouldn't say is super exaggerated. I would say this one was more of like a kind of down to earth, you know, in a way, just about a guy who loses his son and decides to just kind of take it upon himself to do all the killing of the people who did it to him and ruined his life in a way. I don't want to spoil the movie all that much, but pretty much the movie's premise is the main character, Joel Kinnaman. His character comes home from work on Christmas, and it just so happens there's a couple gang members that are shooting each other up from two different cars, pass by, and they shoot his son on inadvertently. I would say they shoot his son and inadvertently shoot him as well. So his goal throughout the whole movie is pretty much to just annihilate these gang members and specifically the leader of the gang. It's pretty typical your dad's action movie type of thing. But me personally, I'm into these kind of movies. So if you're not into these movies, you probably wouldn't love this too much. But it is more down to earth than majority of John Woo's movies. There's not as much like slow mo, like Max Payne style, you know, jumping out of a window, shooting and stuff. There's not much of that. Like I said, again, it's down to earth at its point where it's like, okay, I could see this being kind of realistic. Obviously, there's moments where like the main character is like just under immense amount of fire and he doesn't really take any bullets. But this movie does do well at like putting a lot of like pressure on the main character, especially he gets shot in the leg at times, he gets shot in the throat in the beginning of the movie. No spoilers, but that's the reason the movie's called Silent Night, I believe, is not only because it's during Christmas time, but it's also there's no dialogue really in the movie at all. The main character can't speak because his throat is fucked up. But the whole movie makes it it's very visual storytelling in a lot of ways, you know, like where he'll be reading something and it'll have the audience read it as well. Little things like that make this movie pretty cool. The action is good, but it's not like the best action we've ever seen. And I originally thought maybe it was because we're so spoiled on movies like John Wick, you know, the stylized, like just really well choreographed action. This movie does well. Joel Kinnaman does very well. I wouldn't say it's his fault that the action is a little bit less than, you know, subpar in my opinion. It just feels like the first half of the movie, it's only about an hour and 40 minutes, I believe. I would say like the first like, yeah, hour 44. I would say the first like half of the movie is like just a buildup of him like training and learning how to, you know, hold a gun and how to shoot a gun and how to like, you know, close quarters combat and stuff like that. So I'd say like the first half of the movie is probably the weakest point of the movie because there's like no dialogue and it's just a lot of him recovering and like planning out his year long, like, you know, gang warfare that he's going to you know, the gang violence that he's going to commit. But I don't think that this movie like was like bad in any way because of the pacing. I just thought the first half of it was just kind of boring compared to the second half, and that's what they were trying to do. You could tell like there was a halfway point in the movie where like he starts just going off, and it sometimes feels like I wanted him to just kind of be like a John Wick where he was just unstoppable because that's kind of what they were building to. But there's so many moments where like the main character will like get stabbed in the leg and he's just limping throughout the rest of the movie. And that's cool and everything for continuity's sake, but I don't know, it really like puts a damper on moments where he could like just go on a rampage and kill so many people. There was just moments you'll see when you watch the movie or if you watch the movie, there's just moments where like, oh, it would have been way cooler if it was just him just gun fooing everything. But instead it's like he shoots a couple guys, he gets stabbed really bad in the leg and he gets his ass beat really bad and then he kills the guy that's beating his ass. But it's like he takes so much damage that almost towards the end of the movie, it's underwhelming because when he at the end of the movie when he's fighting all these gang members, you know, going through them like in a long hallway like Hard Boiled style, he's like fucked up the whole time. So it's like I don't know, you're not really seeing the main character at his full potential throughout the whole movie. And I think that's kind of what's fun about Hard Boiled and movies like Mission Impossible 2, for instance. I'm just kind of throwing out random John Woo movies that you might have seen. But This movie takes a lot of what those movies did. For instance, like with Mission Impossible 2, with like the motorcycle, like the crazy, like just jumping off of big jumps with a motorcycle and stuff. This happens in this movie, and it's just like, okay. But like they take moments like that and moments like from Hard Boiled, where it's like one camera angle of like one camera, continuous camera shot of the main character running through these people. It does that, but it doesn't do it at the best potential it can. And I think that's like my probably derogatory mark on this movie was like it had everything a John Woo movie normally has, but it only had it at like 50%. And maybe that's just subjective and maybe I just wanted more out of it, but I definitely felt like some of the action was a little bit complacent. Like there was a lot of moments where it just kind of like was so down to earth that it was like, okay, like is this, it reminded me of the movie Death Sentence. I don't know if a lot of you have seen that, but it was kind of an underrated Kevin Bacon movie where he loses his son and he goes after a bunch of gang members. It was a lot like that, but a lot less like gory and a lot less like dark and like, oh, I want to see this guy win. The main character in this one is an anti-hero for sure, but at the same time, it's like you can tell he's got morals and he doesn't want to be like the baddest of the bad guys. You know, he doesn't want to be the worst type of anti-hero. He still has morals, but if he kind of cut those morals, I think this movie would have been a lot better. I digress though. I don't want to spoil a whole lot of the movie. I liked the movie. I really did. I didn't hate it at all. It's a movie I'd watch again. It's a movie that's probably going to be on TV, to be honest with you. I only paid like $6 to see it and it was a good time. I mean, I had fun. It went by. It was a good afternoon burner, you know. There are a couple moments where I don't think anybody's going to be like upset. I don't know why this malware thing's up. I think a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people will be upset with it. It's just little continuity things. There's a part where he's driving his Mustang and he's chasing after these gang members, right? He goes down an alleyway and he slams in the back of the car of one of the gang members. And then another gang member's car comes behind him and smushes him in between. And the whole time this is happening, the front of his Mustang gets completely bent and broken up. And the gang members in front and the gang members behind him are just shooting at him like crazy. And he's just dodging bullets, right? It's super exaggerated. And it's like, okay, like I get it. You know what I mean? It's just a crazy ass 80s type action movie. And that it's good for that. If you're looking for like a typical 80s, 90s action movie from John Woo, this does that, but just not to the fullest extent, in my opinion. But like for continuity's sake, he rams into the back of that car, the hood of his car bends up, and then it cuts to the next scene where he's like running away from them in his car, and his car looks completely fine. And like things like that won't like affect many people watching it. It didn't like hurt my feelings seeing that, but like I could see like your dad watching it going, how the hell does that work? You know what I mean? That's kind of the things that I got from this movie, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't like, it was fun. It was a fun revenge movie. You know, it did its job. And the fact that it didn't really have a script was really cool. You know, it did a good job trying to make a story out of what you're looking at, pretty much out of the visuals. Kid Cudi's in the movie. He's not the greatest actor in the world. You know, he's a rapper turned, you know, he's not like, he's a rapper turned actor in a way. He's not the greatest, you know, he does his job. He's the detective in the movie that's like assigned to the case, I guess, of his son's death or whatever. But he's kind of useless. He doesn't really like do anything. There's a moment in the end of the movie where I don't want to spoil too much, but where it's a lot like Hard Boiled, like I said, where like the main character and the detective finally come face to face and they just kind of have a silent agreement, like, let's kill everybody type of thing. And then they don't really do much after that. And that was like a miss for me in a way. Again, not trying to spoil anything because it is a cool movie that unfolds in a very like typical way, but it's fun while it's unfolding. I would say this is a movie you would take like maybe like a younger, like if you have a son that's like 15 or 16, you and your son would love seeing this together. You know, if you guys like action movies, it's a fun action movie. It's a fun revenge movie. It's a little sus sometimes though, because like the whole movie, it's like a white dude killing a bunch of like LA gang members and all the LA gang members are all Mexican dudes. So it's kind of like, I liked it though. I liked the movie. I didn't like leave it upset. I didn't leave the movie upset. It did its job. It did what it was supposed to do in the hour 44. I just kind of wish they went a little farther with the action sometimes. I wish they like took more of the movies like I keep mentioning Hard Boiled because that's one of my favorite John Woo movies. That's a movie I grew up on. I loved watching that. There's a scene in Hard Boiled where the two main characters, the two cops, are back to back going through like a continuous one shot down a hallway in a hospital, just one guy with a shotgun, ga, 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 and then one guy with dual pistols, ga, 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 ga. And they do that in this movie, but it's not really as good as his previous movies. And again, I'm not trying to like, you know, say this movie's not good because his other movies are better, but like that's kind of the case here. You know, I mean, he didn't really like, he was safe with this movie, I guess is the best way to say it. I'm kind of just yabba yabbaing right now, but um, it was a cool movie. It was cool. I think it's worth seeing. I don't think it's worth seeing in theaters. I think it's gonna be streaming soon, personally. Um, yeah, that's kind of it. I know IMDb here gave it a 6 out of 10. I was kind of thinking the same thing. I was thinking like maybe a 6.5, just because I like Joel Kinnaman, and I liked all the actors. I thought they all did their job in a lot of ways. I somewhat wish they would have shown the bad guy a little more, like instead of just showing him like sitting in his like high tower, like ivory tower, just kind of, you know, telling people what to do. I thought it would have been better to see him actually be like a crazy gang member the whole time. But I mean, you know, that's just kind of me being a little bit of a bitch about it. But I liked it. I liked it enough to recommend it. I mean, did its job, you know, did its job. So Merry Christmas. Hey guys, I appreciate you guys watching that video. If you guys like the review, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. It kind of helps with the little algorithm. You know, more people get to see my video if more people like the video. But I did want to do like a little shameless plug. I stream on Twitch pretty much every night, every once in a while. I've been playing Resident Evil 2 a lot lately, but we like to sit and we like to talk about movies and talk about different games and stuff like that. So I really like having people in the chat to talk about these things. You know, I like different opinions. I like being able to kind of just dive into what people think of other media, such as the things that I watch or play. So don't forget to throw me a like and a sub if you guys don't mind, and have a wonderful night. Bye.